Hello, this is A Permaculture Youth. Today I'm going to give you my June tour of our Suburban Permaculture Homestead.
Тобою плекані, тобою оплакані, тобою карані, тобою прощені. Земле, землице, чиста водице.
So welcome. First I'll point out that here we live in Coastal Cascadia, Zone 8, Hardy's zone, and in a very kind of extreme climate in terms of it's like in between the Mediterranean rain shadow and the rainforest. So really wet winters and really dry summers. Most people's lawns die back completely, except people who secretly water it. But one thing that we found that works is we've overseeded our lawn with some clover, a mix of clover and other wildflowers. So you can see that there, which helps a lot with reducing the amount of dryness. And we're not allowed to water anyways, so that helps. This area here used to all be lawn under these beautiful Douglas firs and birch trees. But then we realized that the grass was not growing there well underneath them. So we put down some fir bark mulch and some soil to kind of mimic the natural Douglas fir forest that would grow, and planted a bunch of native plants that would naturally grow there, like some ocean spray, red flowering currant, Solomon seal, native strawberry, a lot of them edible or medicinal. One of my favorite parts of this is this nurse log right here, sort of artificial nurse log. We had this, I think we have a little yellow jacket next in here or something, but that's fun. Just stay out of the way. On this log right here, we had this log on that slab when the last owner must have had it built, and they just had it there for aesthetic reasons. But then I decided I could have broke up the size of the log and filled it with the bark mulch so that I could plant these licorice ferns into it. You can kind of see right in here. They kind of die back after the spring, but it's like the second growth here. So hopefully that'll become a thicket of licorice ferns, which is our northwest coast epiphyte. Here we have some Oregon grape growing around there, and then along this side of the lawn is just a sort of a horseshoe shape of different fruit shrubs. Here's the tall serviceberry, delicious. Juneberry they call it, some people, because this is when it fruits super heavily. And then black currant, gooseberry, half-staff, red currant. A little more of a hedge we're trying to build up over here. Rhododendrons, and then over there are salal patch, very small, and some wildflowers. And rosemary, because that's kind of a drier area on that side of the hedge. This area that used to be a boat slab, in our permaculture design, I tried to figure out, it seems like useless space, but it's actually really useful as a sort of a nursery area. So this used to be completely covered with plants last year. We've been here for a couple years, and we've planted tons of different shrubs and herbs and trees around our land. But yeah, this is a great nursery space. The final thing that I'd love to point out is this really great permaculture invention here, which is the herb spiral. This is basically I believe I first heard of it in Gaia's Garden by what's his name? I forget the author, but a permaculture book. And the design is that you take these old bricks, we just got them from someone who didn't need them anymore, and create these different microclimates by filling it with soil. So at the top is this young lavender. Lavender's had a little trouble, but the thyme, love it here. Oregano, really great because it's so warm at the top. This rosemary I did by cutting. Sage, this is the warm top, which gets tons of sun. And then this is the sort of cooler, like some sun in the afternoon side with a bunch of calendula and chamomile. And then on this side, the north side, is where I can plant my garlic chives, parsley. I am trying to grow some of a friend's wasabi in this kind of water container, but it's really tricky. But even on the north side of this is the best microclimate we can get for that. And then just fitting in vegetables wherever we can. A bunch of my self-propagated heirloom cherry tomatoes, red robin variety, some peppers there. Yeah, just fitting it in. Okay, next area. So on this side of the house, we don't have very much space left on our land, but what we decided to do was, because of all the water shortages that our area of this bioregion is experiencing, we decided to put in a rain barrel. Ideally, this would not be plastic. I don't want microplastics. It feels like I'm trading the chlorinated water for microplastics. But I try to use it pretty quickly, and it's in a, even though now this is morning, it gets done, mostly a shady area. So this half of our roof over a garage, sends all the water into this, and I can fill up my watering can right here. I don't want to waste any of it. I have tried to do a hose. It works all right, but just can't go super far because of the water pressure. But yeah, this is good. And ideally, we would probably have several of these to increase the amount of water that we can harvest and use. Also, just along here, I like to choose which weeds I want to pull out, like if they're invasive or aggressive. And if they're nice, like this plantain, then I can feed them to our rabbits or use them for medicine, which I also do. So yeah, this is actually a pretty nice space to find some weeds like prunella, quote unquote weeds, that actually are really useful to propagate. Yep. Okay, so this is our deck area. I try to fill it up with a lot of potted plants. Some of these wildflowers, I do divide them and put them in the backyard where we have wildflower meadows. But like here, I have some of my peppers, which really like being a pot with lots of heat, and some basil. Here, my bay and ginger, which lives inside in the winter. I also have aloe vera inside, so growing houseplants that come outside for medicinal uses. Over there, it should probably be a bit more in the sun, but yeah, this is a mason bee home that I'm hoping that they will utilize, which I take a lot of my slates for cuttings in there, so that mason bees can use. Now here's our first raised bed. This one we did inherit when we bought the place. I have, this is a little messy, but I have perennials like the walking onions, the chives, and these very aggressive spearmint oregano that were already here when we arrived, which I do not advise putting with vegetables, but they're already here. And I'd like to put in the oyas that we use. So another part of our drought-tolerant watering system is we have these oyas that we surround them with mulch. They're supposed to be a Mesoamerican invention, unless that's just marketing. But yeah, you fill them up with water, and then you top them off, put the mulch around them, and this gradually, like if I put my finger in even out here, I can feel the moisture that's seeped off from this. So that keeps these plants somewhat moist and decreases the amount of water that we have to put on here, except recently seeded areas like that. So now this is the rabbit yard. I wish we could have poultry one day, maybe chicken, something like that. But for now, we have pet rabbits, backyard rabbits. This is their hut. This is Diamond. Hello. And she's sleeping. We inherited them, or sorry, we got them both from neighbors who were, who didn't want them anymore. And then I bonded them, which was a process. I might make a video. But they're really sweet pets, and they also have really useful manure, which is used for the garden. And some people complain about having outdoor rabbits. I might do a video about that debate. But they absolutely love this. I spend tons of time with them because I spend a lot of time in the garden, and it's super safe. As you can see, their yard, which they can spend all day in, has this hawk netting on top of it, so hawks can't get in here. And we have this 7-foot tall fence out there that stops any coyotes that might want to. And at nighttime, when the raccoons are out, we also use the dual locks to make sure that they're in there. Hello. Hello. Yeah, this is Diamond, and then somewhere, let's see, we also have Julie Vanessa. Oh, down here. Right now it's pretty hot out, even though it's morning, so they're inside. This is Julie Vanessa, Birch. And look, these rabbits have I made a video of how I designed this sort of artificial den system to discourage them from digging underneath their hay bin. And they used this until they decided they could dig under it, and now they have like a 5 foot long tunnel going like straight into the earth underneath this, going there, underneath there. So it goes from here down there. They're kind of crazy, but you know, it gives them something to do. Oh, Diamond jumped all the way off there. Anyways, oh, and also my mushrooms. I'm super new with my quality mushroom growing. If people have advice for this video, they can definitely put it in the comments. But I'm trying to grow some shiitake logs as well as some reishi mushrooms. This is hopefully shady enough with this, north-facing microclimate. I might move it over there if this doesn't work. But yeah, this is what I have so far. And then one more thing about the yard. We have some herbs, lemon balm over there, rosemary over here, which will grow taller. The rest of this is just a clover yard mix. A lot of clover, pretty rich, but they love it. They spend lots of time out here grazing, digging, running. And over here, this is supposed to be their vegetable garden, but I have to put a fence up until August until these are tall enough. But this will provide some of their greens. The rest come from out there, just wild chicory or from my vegetable garden. So, yeah. Okay, so this is our far backyard. This is a really great space that we're really blessed to be able to use. Yeah, when we got here, the last owner just had it all invasive blackberries, and we take care of it up to about here, just like that. And we spent our first year as a family just digging them out. We made friends with someone who's on the local restoration team who helped us, but otherwise just us digging out the roots. Huge project, but now we have all this wonderful space. This was all buttercup and thistle, all sorts of stuff. So yeah, we have my 3 compost bins. Another important part of a permaculture homestead, making your own compost, integrating animals like the rabbits out their manure. This is still decomposing. You can share this. I use a pitchfork, mostly cold composting, but sometimes I do some hot composting. But rabbit manure is such good manure, you don't even have to hot compost it. It can be cold manure. And then this is my almost done compost. I use 3 bins this done. Should be done in August, which I do turn, and then this one we just finished. And here's this brown storage. A nice little nook to spend time in after school or just relax there. Okay, here's my vegetables. This side is my sort of brassica patch. Brassicas, and also, I have my, I put herbs on the sides. Nasturtium is just wild, kind of volunteer, but I let it grow because it just spills over the side. Good companion plants. And here I have cabbage, collards, kale, some broccoli. I started all of this by seed. I'm trying to save seeds, but biennials are next step I'll work on. But just trying to, decrease costs, do companion planting. You can see where I'm saving seeds of Tokyo Bacana mustard and also moshe corn salad on that end. Over here, my peas, the trellising was not perfect because, I've been really busy this spring and I just kind of flop over. But one thing that I've tried is using a sort of a living post for the trellis around the chicken wire, which is these kale. So you can see that they're last year's, I think a hybrid winter boar kale stems that went really tall because we kept picking them, and they form really great posts that also are great pollinator attractants on the top. As well as actually a pest, what's the word? Sort of a pest trap that traps the aphids. Here's my tomato guild. I'll probably do another video in August about how I design it, but a lot of my heirloom indeterminate tomatoes, hopefully save seed. Some eggplants, peppers, and then I add the basil on that side and cilantro over here. Here, more peas, some root crops, Swiss chard for rabbits, lettuce, greens. A little messy because I'm letting it go to seed, but I used spinach seed from last year that I grew myself. Same with beans, which is great. Here I grow some pumpkin and nettle for biomass reasons. So I use this like in my compost or make a kind of a green manure tea. which is really, really useful. And yeah, the nettle is also edible. This is my nettle I propagated from my foraging patch nearby. Some more planting beds this way. The paths are a little messy because I mixed in chicory, which grows tall, so you have to weed whack it. Otherwise, it's clover. But yeah, here this is, you can see my corn bean squash. I have a certain way to do that. Another time. My heirloom garlic, root crops, trying to grow sweet potatoes from slips, and then also pumpkins. Then this over here, this corner is my young forest garden. It's not very many layers, but I have these dwarf apples here and here, plus the hedgerow on that side, which form kind of the taller tree layer. And then, ooh, great, this is a great example. Look at this lovage. It is just crawling with, what are those? They're not earwigs. Some kind of probably pest predator. So you should zoom in, see this sun. You can see it like this. This is lovage. This is like all perennials mostly, or self-seeding annuals. Mugwort away because it's illegal plastic. Sorrel, yarrow over there, medicinal, rhubarb, a lot of great old European plants like lovage, sorrel that we kind of forget about. Walking onions, tons of perennials, strawberries, artichokes I propagated. A lot of them pretty young and new. This here is where we made a small sort of a micro swale. So if I reach in here, even though all the other soil is really dry unless I watered it, this soil, as you can see, is fairly moist, unlike the rest of it. So this is our swale system. It just goes along here with the hedge to the north. So anything that goes on that public path should drain into here, seep into the ground, and then fill up underneath the berm. And maybe some will go into that path, which is like a second swale. This path has some herbs, other shrubs there. And then on that side, so we have this public path, which used to be kind of have the shielded by the blackberries. But now we have a native plant hedgerow with hawthorn, salmonberry, thimbleberry, tons of edible plants, native plants. The chicory that I let grow is sort of our temporary hedgerow because the rest of it is pretty short, but you can see the salmonberry down there. And then I'm going to cut this back in August so you can see the hedgerow. Some of them are taller. There's this area here is the wildflower meadow. I had to put some hardwood down on the chicory, which was quite a voracious cover crop. Most aerate our pretty clay thick soil. But yeah, this is native wildflowers to our region. Sort of a wet prairie mix because we're in a sort of coastal floodplain area. And then more hedgerow over there. I do have a couple of mushrooms, but I just keep in mind that I don't have tons of time to plant these, and I probably won't live here that long because all the advertising go in my ears. And so these are beaked hazelnuts, which are the native kind, also produce nuts, indigenous. The final area here is a wetland area. Down there, that is sort of a small pond that fills up with some water. That in the winter. In the summer, I've tried to get it to hold water. It's pretty tricky because they didn't want to use a liner. But yeah, we have lots of native rushes. There are some invasive species like this canary grass, but I have a kind of nuanced view on invasive. So I let them grow if they're not being too crazy and if they're not out competing the rest. So yeah, we have a cedar tree over there that'll keep growing, willows in that area, elderberries. Really great area. I've seen lots of wildlife coming here. Tons of pollinators like the mason bees there, garter snakes here. And I should mention there's actually a garter snake at the herb spiral over there. And yeah, so I can use water from this to water the plants. There's sort of a swale that's also overflow in winter when this whole area fills up with water. That leads it into the rest of like sort of a ditch drainage that's right under here. So this is sort of an overflow drain, but that also seeps some water into these beds. And then when I have to use the municipal water, which is chlorinated, but I can't always use rainwater, then I bring the hose over here and use this stake so that it doesn't, because I have such tight paths, so that it doesn't knock over any of my raspberries and plants. Yeah, that's our permaculture system. We're leaving for a month. I hope it'll be good when we get back, but it works for me as a high schooler, produces a lot, and really fun lifestyle. Great food.